Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to be with you for another video. Today I want to show you a technique to use if you need to put a tarp up in high wind situations. One of the easiest things to do as far as a shelter is to rip out the ends of your grommets when you're putting up tarps. And I think I've come up with a scenario or a situation that will help you avoid that. You know, when cars go over different holes and ruts in the road, they have something on the car that stops it from hitting the frame so hard called shock absorbers. And so what I've done is put together kind of a wilderness shock absorber, very simple to do. But let's get to it. We've got pretty high winds out here today. Temperature is only about 55 degrees, so you know that's hypothermic weather. If you start getting high winds with cold temperatures, you could be in trouble real fast. Inside my kit, and this is just my everyday carry, my day kit, I've got a few items. One is a garbage bag, real good idea. But what I tend to do when I'm out in the bush is I put my garbage bag down to put my other kit items on. And we're going to go through this kit and show you a bit about it in another video. But what I'm trying to do here is to get down to this tarp. Okay, this is an ultralight nylon tarp in a stuff sack. This is the one that came out of the gear pods. You guys might remember that. Let me show you what I mean by these grommets. These are double stitched. They're box and X stitched on here. But because this material is so light, a lot of heavy wind will tend to start ripping these out. I don't want to have to fix them in the bush. And what people typically tend to do is to take this, tie it to a tree, and that tree doesn't have any give. So let me show you the method that I've come up with. What I'm going to do is take a piece of my cordage, and I'm just going to go ahead and unwrap my cordage, and I'm going to tie a little overhand knot in one side of it. Not an overhand knot, an overhand loop. Okay, I'm going to tie this in with the figure 8 knot so it comes out easy later on, because there's going to be a little stress on this. And I'm going to wrap this around a tree. You know, another thing that I can use this for is if I don't have two trees that are right at the same distance, this will give me a way to extend my ridge line a little bit if it were. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up a kind of a ridge line here. Just pull that cord through. And what I want is this about waist high. That will give me enough room. So you can see I just pull that loop through on one side. And then I'm going to stretch this out to a second tree. And again, I'm going to have it about waist high. Let me put it around here so it's not, there we go. Have it about waist high. Now I don't want this string ultra tight. You can see there's a little bit of slack, a little bit of give in here, and there's a reason for that. Just going to tie this off. Just a simple double half hitch. Nothing spectacular, but it'll come out right easy when I'm ready to take it out. Okay? Now the next thing that I want to do, and again I want you to see there's some give on this line, is I'm going to take my tarp, and there's a front and back to this tarp, okay? I'm going to take my tarp and I'm going to attach it to this guy line. Now the way that I'm going to do that, it was some prusik knots. So let me get a piece of cordage here, and I'll be right back with you after I tie one of the prusik knots. So what I'm going to do to make my prusik is I just have a piece of cordage about 1 foot long, lay it over, come through 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and you want to keep these ropes in order. And then I'm just going to spin it down until it's tight. You've seen this on other videos. That prusik will slide pretty easily, but once the tarp's on there, it won't pull out. Then I just take the other end of my tarp, and I'm going to go ahead. You can see the wind is really starting to pick up here. I'm going to tie that through the grommet. I'm actually going to tie off through the string that's on the grommet, but a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Then I'll just tie a small tie up top. Okay, now I can stretch my tarp out here, and you can see that that's going to hold tight against that ridge line. So let's get to the next step. What I've done here is make a couple of tent stakes, and I'm just pounding them in to hold the bottom end of that tarp. You can see I just took a couple of pieces of stick about thumb width there, carved the end off to make a stake. So I've got one end done. Let me grab my tarp here, and I can just take my cordage and I'll just wrap around there with a couple of half hitches to hold it in place. Now another thing about this whole setup is that it's pretty quick, pretty easy to do. Without doing it on the video, I could probably do this in about 2 minutes total setup. So I'm going to throw a couple half hitches in there just to hold it in place for this video. Let's go find out where that other one goes. Now I do want to pull this out rather tight. Put that one right about here. And again, we'll do the same thing. I could tie a taut line hitch in here. I could throw a bow line. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a couple of half hitches in here to show you how this thing works. Okay. Alright, so we've got this up. If you want to, you can attach this center to the string, but it's not necessary. But I'm not happy with that. It's a little bit low. So what I'm going to do is just take a minute here to raise this tensioner string, the shock absorber, and I'll just come over here. And remember, this one's pretty loose. So I can just come here, pull this up a little bit around the tree. Do the same thing on this side. Because that first time it was just for a basic idea of where it was going to be, right? And there we go. I've got my tarp where I can get under this. I can stay out of the wind, but these grommets aren't getting a lot of pull. As you can see, as the wind blows, it's moving this string. And so it takes the pressure off those grommets, and it helps them to keep the edges, all the different tacks that are in here, different loops, from getting ripped out so easy. Alright, now if I wanted a little more space inside, I could pull this up, tie it off to a tree limb, something. I could put a stake out here even and tie it up. That'll give me a little more space. But just to get out of the wind, that's not typically necessary. But I may want to do that. You can see the shock absorber rope still works and still keeps that from bouncing and ripping out that tarp. Well, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire. Thanks for being with us on this video. Hope you've learned a little trick that'll help you in the bush. And until we see you again on another video, have a windy day, and thanks for all your support.